All right. Good morning. Today, here with Charlie Arthur, somebody that is part of my fraternity in the Navy, fellow Bubblehead. For those of you that don't know what a Bubblehead is, it's Navy slang for submarine veteran. Charlie was in the Nuke program and finished his time in the Navy as an MM1. And going back to the Bubblehead thing, uh, we were affectionately known as Bubbleheads by people that were on the surface in the surface Navy, like on an aircraft carrier, and Bubbleheads called surface Navy guys targets. So with that, Charlie, I'll let you introduce yourself, sir.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me too. Yeah, the bubblehead term really brought back some feelings.
For sure, man.
Yeah, I'm Charlie Arthur. I spent 8 years in the Navy. Six of them, I was on the submarine for about 6 years in total. Since then, I got out and went to college and started working in the business world. That was about 15 years ago. And now I'm currently the chief data officer for my company, Forecast Agility. We make analytics software for business users.
Awesome, man. So yeah, so a lot of analytics there. Tell me about your time in the military. And I know you mentioned this to me over the phone the other day. You were talking about uh, how the military prepped you for a career in analytics. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I was watching some of your other episodes, and the Nuke program comes up a fair amount. Somebody mentions it, like they were looking for it.
Yeah.
Some other people much smarter than me apparently said that sounds too good to be true. I'm out. But I went the
Yeah.
other way. I was like, yeah, let me have that. So I got swindled by the recruiter, but it was fun. And then when I was in, the boot camp, they're like, hey, we got like $700 extra a month for you if you want to go on submarines. And I'm like, yes, sign me up.
Same thing happened to me.
I was like, I've made it now. But
That's all you need. Yeah.
what's that?
That's all you need to sign the dotted line to become a sub guy. Just tell us there's an extra $700 a month in store, and yeah, we'll take sleep and sun deprivation all day long.
Yeah. So we did like Nuke School, right? Like, and it's every bit as hard as they say it is, and like,
Yeah.
but really, like the highlight was the submarine. Like getting on there, the work is hard, it's grueling, but I'd say it's like looking back at it, it's a rewarding experience, and the submarine experience in specific was extra special for me because like our choices were as a nuke were an aircraft carrier or the submarine. It's like, okay, you want to float around with 6,000 people and kind of have an easier life, or go be on a submarine with 100 people and kind of maybe do cool stuff. And in between all that work, there were some weeks where we worked 100 hours or more, and sometimes, when you're underway, you work 18-hour shifts. Your day shortens to 18 hours. So it's a really funky way to live. But
Nice.
getting to go places and see things that people just normally won't get to see or do was well worth it. Like, probably the highlight was swimming over the Marianas Trench. We got to go to some really cool islands that other ships would never go into around the not the Marianas, China, Micronesia, and things like that. So, you know, you get out of it what you put into it, right? Like, just kind of do the work and enjoy the fun times.
Yeah, no, I want to touch on a couple things there. So Nuke School, and again, I'm a nuke dropout, so I was there for about 3 months, and then they shipped me out of there from Charleston, South Carolina, and then I ended up going to Groton, Connecticut for submarine school. And so you were in Nuke School uh, from when to when were you in Nuke School for training?
Let's see. I joined the military. I graduated when I was 17 and I went straight into the military, like graduated in June or whatever, and then went to boot camp in September. Which in Chicago, that's a dumb choice. I should have timed that a lot better.
Well, that's all right.
But
That's how
oh,
it
sorry.
goes.
I went to Nuke School. I think I just turned 18 when I first went to like whatever the first Nuke School was.
Yeah.
And what is it? 18 months to 2 years. Like maybe a year of it is in classroom training, and 6 months is like hands-on on like a real submarine, but non-operational, like it doesn't go underwater.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like the classroom exercise is just an exercise in how well you can stay awake and like focus. Once you get to the practical part, like you got it at that point, right?
Oh my God, that's a perfect way to put it. I remember this guy falling asleep every day in class. And I mean, I was also one of those guys that was falling asleep every single day in class. That's why I failed. But this guy, he would fall asleep, whole class, he'd be out. And the way Nuke School went, you had a lot of verbatim, you had to have all the definitions down. So for example, I think Neolube, is that what it is? Or is that what it is? It's the one with the graphite, uh, colloidal graphite suspended in isopropyl alcohol.
Oh man.
Do you remember that?
I remember the graphite suspended in isopropyl alcohol. I don't remember that term that you're referring to, no.
So that is an example though, where you'd be like, you get a question on your exam, what is Neolube? And to get a perfect score for that question, you had to write something like Neolube is colloidal graphite suspended in isopropyl alcohol. In order to get the perfect score, that's what you needed to write down.
Right.
And so this guy would fall asleep all the time. And he would just get a pop quiz in the middle of class. The instructor would ask him some kind of random question, and he would blurt out the textbook answer, and then we go right back to sleep. And I was just like, how the heck does this guy do this? And he
Yeah.
doesn't. And they made us go to extra hours of study and all that other stuff. But yeah, it was tough. So I'm glad that you made it through, because that was hell, man. That was total. It was probably the closest thing to going to college that you can get in the military as an enlisted person.
Mm.
Um, but to me, it's so much harder.
I think it was way harder than college. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely torture to go through. So you got through all that and then ended up going into the submarine force. And yeah, you're right. 100 hour weeks sometimes. It's very busy. You got a lot that you have to do. And you're talking about the 18-hour rotations. For those that you don't really know what the submarine life is like, 18-hour rotation means that you're sleeping for 6 hours if you're lucky. You're on watch doing your job for 6 hours, and then you're off watch for 6 hours doing something interesting if you're lucky, but you're probably working. And then again, if you get the chance, if you're not still working, you get to go to bed for 6 hours, and then you do it all again. It's just a 6 hour, 6 hour, 6 hour, and you don't know what time it is. It doesn't matter. You can't see the sun.
Right. That's the other thing. You go into this like time warp, right? They close that
Yeah,
hatch, and
that's
unless
it.
you're working up in the bridge, right, and you can see like the periscope or whatever,
Yeah.
like you just you just do like you're like a human machine at that point.
That's right. You wake up today, it's midnight. Then you do the thing again, and you wake up the next day, and it's 6 p.m. It's uh,
Right.
it's it's weird. It's weird. So,
The other
but
thing
yeah,
would be
very
the
cool.
hot racking in that equation, where you have three, was it two beds for three people? So you don't even
Yeah.
know which rack you're gonna go sleep in when you finish your work shift, right?
Oh my gosh, and hot racking, that was something. I'm a germaphobe, so I would make sure that I stripped my bunk down before I went to bed every single time, and uh, that means that I'm cutting down on my precious hours of sleep that I could have.
Yeah,
So
and space, the space required to have your own linens.
it's so tough. Yeah, you literally, what is it, like 5, 6 foot long bunk, probably a 6 foot long bunk, and maybe like, it's only maybe a couple feet wide, and then you flip that up and you got that much depth of the same size, that much depth to put all your stuff in, split between three people.
Yeah, it is not luxury.
No, no, it is not a luxury hotel by any means, but or luxury flotel. You do what you got to do. You get through it. But yeah, I'm not going to mention the names of the people that I used to hot rack with, but um, and I hope they're watching. But they were some nasty dudes. They did not shower as frequently as I did. They did not change the sheets. They would just, one guy would get out, the other guy would go right back in, right into the other guy's sheets.
Hot
Disgusting.
rack. Man, putting them on blast. I hope nobody's
Yeah,
out there thinking about me.
yeah. No, they're yeah. It was, I don't know, but I was also a little over the top with my germs, so um, didn't make it there. But okay, I'm sorry. That's you're bringing back my trauma. So uh, but so you were in the Navy. I know you mentioned you had a lot of time to spend doing logs with all the different systems that you were monitoring, and that was kind of where the analytics passion came into play.
Yeah, that like it's really interesting and like it ties in a lot with like what if you decide to transition into like into civilian life, like how you think about what you did before and like how you can speak about it once you're on the outside, right? So yeah, a lot of my job was, especially in the later part of the years, instead of like doing a lot of the work, my job was to review the logs and in detail. And there's like, we'll call it 50 systems that have a pattern, right? And you write in paper and pencil the parameters of like say the temperature of a turbine, right? Every hour on or every half hour, maybe it's even 15 minutes. And I go back and I review a week's worth of those.
Yeah,
And now people would use Excel. I don't know what they use in the Navy, but like, in the business world, you would use Excel and draw a chart and you could see if, obviously if there's an outlier, but we didn't have any of that.
right.
So I actually like, the way I think about it is I developed a way to like kind of see the numbers as they roll, like a time series kind of thing. And that's kind of what put me on this like track to do analytics. And it actually like affected me in college because I was like, I tried to take my Nuke career right into college and be like a mechanical engineer. And then, but I was seeing like I gravitated more towards the theoretical side. So I just kind of like gravitated more towards like mathematics in general rather than like the specific engineering things.
Yeah,
Um, and like it just gives you like a framework to of like how to deal with like different problems more than like how to add for me anyway.
yeah,
When I got out though, I wasn't that eloquent about it. I had an incredibly tough time saying what I did and how it translated. Like I would be trying to get an analytics job and I was like, yeah, man, I packed pipes with packing, or like I replaced valves.
ah,
Like, isn't that like what do you mean? And obviously I didn't get any of those jobs.
and yeah, 'cause I mean, you're a mechanic as well.
Right.
You were repairing and doing maintenance on different types of mechanical systems, and obviously very numbers analytics driven as well, because these systems are crucial, critical systems on the submarine. If something failed, then people can get hurt. The submarine won't go where it needs to go. We can be in a very dangerous situation. So obviously that's why it was so crucial for your log taking to be on point, so you can find potential disastrous trends. And so, I explained something that and I wasn't able to explain when I first got out of the military. I can only imagine how hard it was for you when you got out to try to find work and explain what you did.
Yeah, like, because you think about your job when you're in the military, and like when I think about how I thought about it, it was like action words, right? Like we fixed things, we ran things, we did the work to make the submarine go that way, right?
Yeah,
And like the log taking was a critical part of that because that's how we knew if something was wrong. That's how we identified problems. But like
right.
that was the focus, not the analytical part that essentially laid the groundwork for, years and years of analytics, in-depth work and coding and things like that, right? So I just had like I wasn't able to reframe my mind, and to be honest, like I just didn't like figure out. I just didn't like ask anybody. I didn't seek the help, of people to like tell me how to do that. And the people that I did talk to, like they didn't have the experience, right? I was like asking people that had never been in the military, never transitioned. So
I
I was
got it.
asking the wrong
Yeah.
people and I was thinking about it all wrong.
So it's such a translation gap there to be able to explain, and then on the other side for a civilian to understand what you're trying to say without having somebody in the middle to kind of help bridge the gap. I remember getting out, and I was also a machinist mate, but in the on the auxiliary side of the submarine, not the nuclear side, the other systems that we had to keep maintained, and our title was machinist mate.
Mm-hmm.
We were not machinists. We did not machine things. We did not use CNCs or different types of manufacturing machines that were used to make parts. That was not what we did. But when a civilian asked me what I did for work and they saw that I was a machinist mate, they immediately thought that I was some kind of CNC programmer, and that's something that I could take my skills in the I probably could have learned how to do it, but no, I was not qualified to run any type of machine as a civilian. But that's what they initially thought when they saw my resume.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like even that, right? Nobody ever said like you don't actually have to write machinist mate. No one knows what that is anyway,
Right,
right?
right,
Say what it is that you did, the essence of
yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. Don't say machinist mate. Say you're trying to get a job as a I don't know some I for my first job after getting out, I was a technical program manager, which
Mhm.
was very difficult to define and understand before I started doing what I was doing as a technical program manager. But yeah, I should have looked at the job description and explained what I did based on the job description for that role. So that's absolutely right. Don't call yourself a machinist, mate. Just try to name it something that's similar to what you're trying to get into.
Right. Like the gist of it. I think later on I described it as like a nuclear power plant, like data analyst as or something like that,
Oh
right?
yeah, and then
You
that
know,
that's a good catch-all. Yeah,
right. It has the like nuclear power. Ooh, that's cool. Like I'm
yeah,
interested now. And then data analyst, that directly applies to what it is you want to do.
that's
Right.
right. That's right. You're trying to make it easier for those that are reviewing the information, so then you can have a conversation about it, and then you can explain it deeper.
Right. Meet people where they are, right? Like
That's right. Yes, yes. I use that terminology quite a bit. That's a good way to look at it. So yeah, so definitely see the connection there. And so then you got out, you went to school. Um, Talk a little bit about school, and is that period of time between leaving the Navy to school and what got you to where you are now.
hmm. So leaving the Navy and going to school, I really just had no idea what I wanted to do. Actually, like my separation from the military was like pretty tumultuous, and I would say like kind of antagonistic a little bit. So I had a pretty traumatic head injury about a year and a half or so before I got, or maybe 2 years before I got out. And it disrupt I was about to go to shore duty that same day, actually. And it kind of messed up the whole rhythm. I was like kind of temporarily assigned medical duty for a while because I how to I couldn't think, right? And then when I was done with that, they were like, you got to re-enlist, and I'm like, I don't want to re-enlist. Like, so they sent me back to the submarine, which is why I spent 6 years total on a submarine,
Yeah.
in one tour, which is quite odd. But
It's a long
anyway,
time.
so as we got out, like as I got out, I wanted nothing to do with it because of that like antagonistic relationship. So I didn't engage with the VA. In college, I was 10 years older than my peers, and I went to San Diego, or University of California, San Diego, which didn't have like a strong veteran like presence there.
And
So
what year was that?
2006.
Got it.
So it was kind of like an isolating experience. Plus, so like I would say like do necessarily like things aren't going to engage with you, but it helps if you like make the effort to engage with them. And I really
Yeah.
miss that aspect of it. But I was focused on school, and then when I got out of school, I didn't work thanks to the GI Bill. Like, wonderful program. I went to community college for a couple years. Went to the university for the second two. Basically, that was all paid for from the GI Bill, so I can't say enough about that. Use that for all it's worth. But then when I got out, or when I finished college, I didn't know how to talk about it. So I essentially did like military contracting jobs for a while. And my boss at the time, who also had a mathematics degree, but he was an officer who just retired. So he was like kind of doing that, just doing like any contracting job, right? As one does.
Yeah.
um, and he was like, you got to figure out how to like market this, because this isn't for you. Like, this isn't what you want to do. Like, figure out some way, move to New York and go be a hedge fund guy, or like figure out how to talk about what you're doing or what you
Yeah.
want to do. So like through that, I just started like iterating on how to, like, I really focused on how to get to where I wanted to be. So I had like a 3, 4, 5 year plan of like, okay, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's in like statistics or programming, and just kind of like hop through jobs to get that experience, like the hard quantifiable business experience to get into that data analyst role. And
Yeah.
it took 3 or 4 years to actually do that before I had my first like data scientist job in the private sector. And then once that happened, right, then you just focus all in on what it is you want to execute next, right? Once you have the path laid out, you're free to like engage with that path. And like most people will start that process at 21,
Yeah.
right? When they get out of college. For veterans, right, 25, 30, something like that. So it's like a lot more is at stake when you do it that way.
Oh, man, that's it's just incredible, and glad to hear that you had that guidance, that you were able to keep pushing forward and advancing your education, and then finding that ultimate fit to where you are in your career. And wow, yeah, because it's hard. It's hard to do. I think especially with you think about all the different personalities you probably worked with when you were in the nuclear program and doing what you did on the submarine. I remember there were guys like you that were able to talk and show their personality, and then there was a lot of other guys that I remember, great guys, but they were like they were like rocks for personalities, man. They didn't really know how to talk to people, unfortunately, and they did a great job. They were hard workers, but they didn't necessarily know how to articulate who they were, what their skills were. Didn't necessarily go out and get what they wanted. So it can be very difficult.
It is,
So
it's difficult. Like I think I had a really, to be honest, like I had a really
yeah,
tough time with this, right?
yeah,
I was really struggling with like that head injury, and
right,
like to be honest, like a lot of that process I talk about it iteratively, was like the cornerstone of that was failure, right? I would apply for jobs and not get them, and it's really hard to like not take it personally,
right,
at least for me. And basically, like, actually, now looking back, I think that was probably even more than like the visualization of the analytics, right? Like getting used to failure early on is like depending on what you want to do, right? But for me, it was essential because then I no longer became afraid of failure. I was like, just whatever, spamming emails. Like I would cold call, cold email people and just talk to them. And you'd be surprised, like, who you can get a hold of just by cold emails, right? Like
So you
people
were cold calling and cold emailing for work.
for work just to get advice. Like,
Yeah.
okay, a long time ago, like there's a guy who runs the like the futuristic vision at Deloitte, and I just emailed him and I was like, hey, like I want to talk to you. I'm super like into this, and
Yeah.
I like what you do, and he's just like, yeah, let's hop on, and I'll see what I can do to like help you and talk to you, you know. And but for
That's
every one of
awesome.
those, there's 100 that just went into the trash can. But like whatever, who cares?
No, that's a good point. I've heard somebody say something like if you ask somebody for money, they'll give you advice. If you ask somebody for advice, they'll give you money. And I use that metaphorically all the time. Like you reached out to these people to talk, to have a conversation, to get help, to get guidance. You didn't ask them to give you a job.
Hmm.
You were asking for just some insight and maybe another way to connect with somebody else potentially. But this whole idea of networking and connecting and reaching out to people, um, it should be more open minded than it is sometimes. Sometimes people are just looking for like one outcome. That outcome is give me a job or help me start this company, give me some money to do that or whatever the case may be. But if you have the mindset to connect and understand and develop a relationship, that can be so much more beneficial than any of those other outcomes.
Right. Yeah, like and it's off-putting when you like are jump straight to the and like I'm not saying you should do like Trojan horse techniques, right? But like genuinely be interested in just talking and figuring out what the outcome is. Generally, people are more apt to give you advice, but
That's
like
right.
he'll I do it too. People email me and like I have time to deal with an email or I don't, right? And if I
Right.
do and I see something that peaks, I'm like, oh, I can't help you, but like I know people who can. Here, like
Yeah.
let me put you in touch with them.
Yeah. You got to pick and choose. You got to pick
Yeah.
and choose. You can't say yes to everything. But if the times that you can, it can be really helpful to you. It can be really helpful to the person that you're helping.
Actually, that was a skill I want to give a shout out to Bunker Labs. Have you ever heard of them?
Bunker Labs, I've not.
So they're a veteran entrepreneur like assistance program. It's a nonprofit. I attended one boot camp in Chicago and met with a lot of people, and they really like help you if you have a business idea. Like let's say you want to be an entrepreneur, and they help people take it from idea to like talking about it in the world, right? Which is a giant chasm.
Right.
Um, and one of their things was the military instills in you like do the work, right? Just do it, get it done. It has to be done.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily like pawn it off, especially unless you're like a lead or whatever, right? So
Yep.
that's what we do as military people, and that's not a good skill for entrepreneurs. Like the good skill for entrepreneurs is to network and find people who can help you, or find people who can find people to help you,
It's a good
right?
point. Yeah, you got to do your job in the military, and yeah, I think that instills this thing where you're gonna do it, you got to do it yourself, and you can't necessarily lean on your teammates depending on the position you're in. They don't really train you for that until you get into higher levels of seniority
Hmm.
for delegation. So not everybody makes it to that point. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you need to have that skill to be able uh, to know what you're good at, to know what your strong points are, and then know where you need help so you can go get it and lean on somebody else to do the thing that you're not as good at.
Hmm. Yeah, no one can be good enough to do everything. Like
Right.
it's just not gonna happen. So don't try. You'll kill yourself.
You totally will. You totally will. At Fidelity, we're very big on working as a team, and I focus on the things that I'm very good at. I focus on working with my clients every day, and I have a support team that I can go to for the things that I don't know very well. I can just hand them things that they're very good at, and they take care of it for me. And then that gives me more time to be able to focus on the things I'm good at to help my clients.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
key,
And people like that's the way people prefer to work, right? Like
right?
but it's somehow foreign to us until you just do it and figure it out.
It was certainly foreign to me for a long time. It's something I'm still learning how to do. It's very difficult to hand things off to somebody else. But I think that's always got to be ingrained in the back of my mind and in our mind is that somebody else can do it better, so let them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and then let it be done better. So, um, Bunker Labs definitely gonna include that in the notes of of this episode here for sure. And so talked about a lot here. I think you mentioned a little bit about the traumatic brain head injury that you had. Sounds like that was not an easy thing to deal with, especially as you were getting out of the military. Um, and you mentioned a little bit about the VA back then
Mhm.
compared to now, and things have kind of changed for you a little bit in the way that you view the military and the way you view the VA. How has that transition been for you over time? How is everything going with that?
Mhm. So yeah, I basically wrote the military off shortly after, except for the GI Bill and like the, some other benefits or whatever, but like no health, no VA disability or anything like that. Like I was like, I'm not dealing with them. I can do it on my own. And actually my mom was in the military. She was a Navy officer for a while when I was a kid. And she had injury in the military and similar thing. Like she was, I think there was like a different relationship before, say, 9/11 and Obama or whatever, right? But so she was kind of different. And then she happened to get a job with the VA, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And then she was like, wait, this is not what I remember. And then she was always poking at me to like do it. And at some point I went to the VA hospital. I found out that I was eligible for like VA healthcare,
Yeah,
just as a veteran, right? Which had no idea. And I went in and I was like, wait, this isn't so bad. This is actually really nice. And I started like doing more and more. And then I started listening to my mom. And when I was in Montana, I lived there for about a year. They actually have state reps that help you navigate the VA system. And they were like, her name was Karen. Like she was super sympathetic, like spent a lot of time listening, and then it helped me navigate the system. And like it wasn't hard, but it wasn't easy. Like it didn't like flow. But as
yeah,
long as you paid attention and did the steps, it worked out. And I guess, now it's working out great. Like I learned to self-manage in the say 15 years before, since my injury and like when I started getting help. But now like that I'm getting professional help, it's so much better.
yeah.
Um, and I guess like there's two things I would say that are the key points on this one. And one is the all these systems are different. Like the military medical system is not the VA healthcare, is not VA disability, is not the private doctors that the VA disability uses to evaluate you. Like, my beef was with the military doctors. And nobody else had any connection to that. And all I had to do
Right.
was talk to them. But I held this grudge that held me back for a long time. Um, and like that was just dumb. That was on me. And I'm glad I did that. And if I can help somebody else like realize to do that, then please like go forth with that.
Yeah,
The second thing was I struggled a lot as a result of that injury with like, different bouts of depression and PTSD and things like that. And that I actually did try to get help for over the years. My issue was I tried to do it when it was like acute or like happening now. Like if I'm experiencing a really challenging time right now, now's not the time to like get help,
Mm.
because the system is too slow for that. Like you need to, if you have that kind of trend in your life or you experience those issues, sign up, get help that lasts, so that way it's there when you need it, and kind of engage with it when you don't. Otherwise, like it's just it's too hard to get care when you need it, right?
That's true. That's true. It's a very good point. You do kind of want to have it already established, so that when things get to a point of I guess urgency, you're not trying to get things started. That's the hard process, is getting over the wall of getting things started. I actually moved to Chicago back in October, and I'm still trying to get a therapist here in the Chicago system, the Chicago VA, so that I can talk through my anxiety and all those things. Um, and I was supposed to have an appointment with them 2 weeks ago, my first appointment, and they canceled on me the day of, and they
Mm.
said they would call me back and reschedule, and I haven't gotten a call back yet. And that means that I need to do my job and meet them in the middle. I need to call them. I need to say, hey, you guys got to set this appointment up, and I got to push them. You're getting a free service because of the work and the sacrifices that we made, and it's not a perfect service. But when you do get the help, because I worked with them in Cleveland, they gave me good therapy sessions in Cleveland for this. I know that the VA is very capable of taking care of me, but
Mhm.
it can be a frustrating process, and that's why we have to meet the VA in the middle.
Yeah, meet them where they are. It comes up again.
Right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I had the same thing, right? I was in Montana and I was getting great help. I had a relationship with the therapist, and we had good communication. I was learning a lot of things, a lot of skills to like help, and when I moved from there, I had to redo it all, and it took a long time, but it's better to have it there than have it available when you need it than like be searching frantically,
Right.
for it.
Be proactive. I think that's the other key to it, is you may not necessarily feel like you have a problem right now, or that there's an issue, but you can also use preventative maintenance on yourself, to prevent something from getting out of control, before you can I mean, I think mental health and just getting the care you need, whether it's general, going to see your general practitioner, checking your personal health analytics and all those things to make sure your levels are staying in line. Doing that once a year, checking with the therapist, making sure you're on some type of schedule with that. All super helpful to keep you balanced and from getting out of control before it's too hard to rein it all in.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, if you're trying to come back and play cleanup, like that can just be overwhelming. And if you're struggling at that point, that amount of work is just going to make it worse, right? Like you don't need that at that point.
No, no, it's just like your car. You wait to fix something that's continuously going wrong, and you just put a band-aid on it, or you just keep running until the car doesn't work anymore. And how many other systems now are affected by that one thing that was probably just as simple as doing an oil change or something, and now nothing works at all, and the car is just trashed because you didn't maintain it. So um, definitely, you could probably talk about analogies all day, um, but I appreciate you sharing that, and yeah, I can't imagine what that experience was like in the beginning, um, going through the injury that you had. Um, it definitely sucks that that happened, but it sounds like you were able to get through it and find a much better place where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just the theme is like keep going, right?
Yeah,
Like just
push
okay,
through.
this happened. It's all factual, right? That's
Yeah,
like a coping mechanism for trauma, right? This
yeah,
this factual, and then I guess probably learning to like put some emotion back into it, not being so cold about it really helps like the healing process.
yeah.
So that, but just gotta just keep working, have a vision of like where you want to be and keep working towards that and evolve the vision as you go to account for those iterations that you go through on the way.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep pushing through. And what are you pushing for now? What is your present situation going into the future look like? What types of goals and dreams are you trying to crush at this point?
So I guess professionally, I mentioned, the business that I started with some colleagues of mine. We're launching our beta product pretty soon, so we're gonna start like sending it to people to get user feedback. So that's super exciting, right? It's always nerve-wracking to put yourself and your work out into the world. But people will generally receive it better than you think they will. So
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
that's
And
true.
there's two things I would kind of want to use for this. Like we started when we started in the beginning, we're like, okay, what's our like philanthropic end of this? And one was like, well, once we have a well-defined product, let's give it to schools essentially for free and try to work it into the curriculum so kids learn how to deal with numbers, math, analytics, and AI, like in high school, which they're probably using it even earlier than that now, or AI at
Yep.
least, right? Um, and then the other one is like more personal, like how can I use everything that I've learned to like help, give back to veterans. Like when we talked previously, you let me know about a internship program that helps train people to do recently separated veterans on how to do jobs, right? So one of
Yeah,
my
yeah, skill bridge. Yep.
Bridge, right? One of my focuses is to like figure out how I can help, because I didn't do a good job of helping before. Like, I was kind of self-centered, focused on that, how to like dig myself out of whatever hole I was in. Now that I no longer feel like I'm in that hole, I'm available to help, like answer more of those emails, kind of kind of define a path of how I can give back.
Got it. Yeah, you got to help yourself before you can help others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I put a lot of effort into it, right? And I was like, the idea is like you invest, 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 and then at some point you take dividends out of that, and then what you do with that is kind of your thing, right? You could sit on a beach in the Caribbean, or you could do work, right? And I always choose to do work, and one of those things is like help the people that are struggling with the same issues that I figured out, and maybe they can do it a lot faster and with a lot less struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. Be that helping hand that helps lift people up. That's definitely uh that's my whole purpose behind reaching heroes is to help lift people up, to help each other lift each other up. That's I'd say that's one of my biggest goals with
Yeah,
this
that I
program.
just watching your episodes, like those stories are amazing. Like I'm saying, like I want to figure out how to do it. They just did it. Like they figured it out, or figured out something to do, put a stake in the ground and went for it. And that's impressive and inspiring, honestly.
Yeah, we're
Thanks for
also
sharing that stories.
yeah, and thank you for sharing that. I think we're all humans. We're all just trying to live our lives and make them meaningful. We all have the same. We're all gonna die someday. We're all gonna we're all going to go through pain and we're all gonna experience joy at different times. We all have that in common. We're all veterans, or at least have a mission to help veterans. For those that aren't veterans that end up on these episodes, um, and we're all just trying to get by and get through. So I definitely appreciate you saying that. And to back up real quick here, you mentioned the philanthropy goals that you have. One to help veterans through trying to figure out a way to integrate something like Skill Bridge into the workplace, but also mentioned a program to help high school kids learn the skills that they're going to be able to take directly into the workplace as well. Do you have any type of organization in place or names in place for those yet?
No, basically, so we started developing everything about a year ago.
Yeah,
And we've been focused, like the first thing we have to do is develop a product that we can put out to get user feedback. So this is
sure.
basically our MVP stage.
Got it.
And provided that has some receptiveness in the market, right, that'll enable us to do these other things, or but we have to find a foothold first, and then
Sure.
once similar to this, like I worked on myself, right, and then now that I'm done, or not, you're never done, to be honest, but now
Never
that I feel
done.
like I'm in a place that I can do that. So that's where we're approaching the top of that crest, I think.
Yeah.
And now I'm looking forward to like the next year or whatever. Okay, how can I make a difference, and what are the steps I need to put in place to like be able to put that into effect?
Yeah.
To go with your analogy thing, it's the airplane mask, right?
Yep.
Put it on yourself and then put it on others.
That's right. I was exactly what I was thinking when you mentioned that. You've got to do that first. It's as much as you want to help that little one next to you, which you will, you've got to you if you die, you can't do that. So you got to make sure you can take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else. And yeah, I think capacity is definitely a thing. I may not be able to do too many more of these episodes for the next several months after I knock out a couple more because I'm studying, trying to get through some school, and we're going to be buying a house soon. There's a lot going on. So just trying to balance time to work and personal life and being able to do something like this. I might have to put this on pause for a little bit. But it's definitely not something that I'm going to be pausing for too long as I put my mask on to get a little bit of oxygen. So that might be happening here in a little bit. I might postpone some of the episodes for a couple months pretty soon here for a short period of time. But um, so that's a little bit of an update on Reaching Heroes. Um, Good segue for that. And so we talked about a ton of stuff today, Charlie. I want to ask you before my final question. I've got one more question.
Mhm.
Uh, Anything that I missed, or anything that you feel we need to make sure we touch on before we wrap things up today?
Um, I guess, like, I mean, we already touched on it, but I think I would like to just like, I think the main theme from our talk and what I've learned is like it's out there. Whatever it is that you need, it's probably out there. And like people are there to help you, but you have to ask for it, and you have to like know what you want out of it. So like really like do the work of thinking about it, and then just go search it out, go talk to people. We can't do this alone. So like, the help is there. And if you need it, whatever it is, whether it's, figuring out how to write a resume or dealing with PTSD or whatever, right? Like you have to figure it out what to ask for. But if you ask for it, it's there.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Mhm.
And that's really the key. You have to go out, you have to find the help that you need. And I know that could be tough. It could be really tough to it could be scary to go and find it. But yeah, you're right, man. Like people receive it so much more positively than you think they will. And they go out there and they help you. I think you stole my last question, actually. My last question. I love to ask this question. I don't think I can ask this question because you pretty much answered it right there. But I always like to. That was a big one. Go out and get the help that you need, and ask and you shall receive, basically. But I'll try. I'll try here. If you could go back in time to give yourself advice, when would you go back in time to, and what advice would you give yourself? Any other advice other than go out and find help?
Oh, so the real easy one would be like go back to high school or ninth grade or whatever and say, try harder. That's a real easy one because I was not a good student. That hence the military when I was 17.
Yeah, same,
But
man.
like actually when I look back on it, that probably what I would have said, 4 or 5 years out of the military. But looking back on it now, like that was one of the defining things. And like, the bad stuff fades away, the good stuff generally stays. And I really enjoyed my time and it set the course for, what I think is a positive life, right? Like
Yeah,
so I don't think that's actually the advice I would give myself, right? I actively don't want that. I would say like believe in yourself. I would go back to probably when I got out of the military because I was a little bit headstrong when I was in the military because like it's everything's real well defined. And if things are well defined, I'm like, yeah, I got this. But if things are ambiguous, you're like, oh, am I doing it right? I don't know. Right. You
right.
start to question yourself. And if you have any cracks in your self-esteem, it's just gonna split them apart.
Shatters you, man. Yeah,
Yeah. So like going back and just all through all those failures, like they hit me real hard. And there were plenty of times where I was just gonna give up and say, like, this isn't actually my path. I should just go be a CNC programmer, right? Or,
yeah, yeah.
not like that's a perfectly legit path, but it wasn't
Sure.
my path,
Right.
right? And I struggled with that a lot and I didn't believe in myself. Luckily I kept going. But if you think that you have a path, just like trust yourself and fail and keep going, believe in
Right.
yourself. That's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, now find your path. You're right. Nothing wrong with the CNC programmer. It's a great job. A lot of people are very passionate about that job, that particular career path. But you're right. If it's not your path, you have to keep going because you certainly were capable of going down that road if you wanted to. But you felt that there was something else out there for you, so you kept seeking it out, and you're still seeking it out.
Yeah, I
So
still like I make stuff all the time. Like that's my
yeah,
hobby that
yeah,
I carried forward, right? That's not what I wanted to do for a living. Like there were other things that I wanted to satisfy professionally.
yeah.
So like that's why I didn't want to do that. And it took a long time, but it was worth it.
So lots of nuggets there. I'm gonna wrap it up here with um, that first one that you said. Go out, find the help you need. Uh, Ask and you shall receive. Try harder. Go back in time to ninth and 10th grade. Tell yourself to work harder in school. I think we all could try harder. I think that's key. Um, and believe in yourself. That's I'd say that's one of the best lessons that we can give ourselves is to have that belief we can do it. Ted Lasso, Believe, baby. One of
Oh,
my
is
favorite
that
shows. Not sure if you've
I haven't
seen
watched
it.
Ted Lasso. Maybe I
You
should.
haven't? You haven't seen it
No.
yet? All right. Ted Lasso. That's my homework assignment to you. I think you would love that show. If anybody hasn't seen Ted Lasso, please watch it. It's a big, I'd say one of the biggest mottos in Ted Lasso is believe in yourself and just believe in good things.
Yeah, I expect to see a Apple TV affiliate link in this
Oh, oh,
episode.
hey, I'm not getting paid for this. So just that's just that's a free advertisement to Apple TV and Ted Lasso. So sorry. All right. Well, thanks to everybody for watching this episode of Reaching Heroes. Please reach out to Charlie. He's don't let his professional LinkedIn photo trick you or fool you. He is, as you can see here, he is way more party than professional, but he's also quite the professional. So thank you for your time, Charlie, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is a great talk.
Absolutely. I think so too. You guys take care.